Þegar rætt klám verður að hafa í huga að klám í dag mun grófara en það var fyrir 10 til 15 árum síðan. Þetta ekki myndir af brosmildum berbrjósta konum á kornakri, heldur grófar, jafnvel þvingaðar kynlífsathafnir sem sýndar eru sem sjálfsagðar. Þetta hefur áhrif á kynvitund mjög ungra einstaklinga og virðist klámiðnaðurinn einblína á að ná í unga neytendur. Þetta segir Gail Dines sem heldur fyrirlestur á morgun á ráðstefnu klám á vegum ýmissa ráðuneyta í samstarfi við lagadeild Háskóla Íslands. Margrét Erla ræddi við hann í dag og við vörum við bersöklum lýsingum í þessu viðtali.
Welcome to Kastljósi. You've been researching pornography for 20 years. How has it changed in this time?
Well, when I talk about pornography, I think a lot of people, especially women and older men, are thinking of Playboy or Penthouse like 15, 20 years ago, which is a naked woman smiling in a cornfield. And the question often becomes, why are you so upset over this? And my answer to that is you have to know what pornography has become. Since the internet, the industry of pornography has changed drastically. What the internet did is it made pornography more affordable, more accessible, and more anonymous. And with that, you basically increased the amount of men and boys using porn, and what happened is what was once considered softcore mainstream has now changed to hardcore mainstream. So there is really no more softcore porn on the internet. If you put porn into Google today, you don't come up with anything softcore, because softcore porn has migrated to pop culture. What you come up with is what the porn industry calls gonzo, which is shorthand for hardcore, cruel, abusive, misogynist pornography. That is mainstream. So any boy in Iceland around 12 or 13, and the average age of looking at porn for the first time here is 11, when he puts porn into Google, he is coming up with the most hardcore, misogynist images that years ago you would have to go to a special part in a special shop to find.
Have we given up on trying to decrease pornography?
Well, there's been no political will in any country that I have seen that has said that the pornographers should not be in charge of controlling sexuality for the vast majority of the population. So in a way, I don't think we've so much given up as we never even started to take this on. I mean, when you think about the porn industry, which is the major form of sex education now for boys all over the world, the porn industry, most of it comes out of a small part of Los Angeles in California. So 70 to 80% of all pornography consumed in the world is produced in Los Angeles. So the question I ask to people in Iceland, and indeed all over the world, is do you want a small group of American men who are misogynist, who hate women, who are cruel and who are violent? Do you want them deciding the sexuality of men in Iceland, in Norway, in Finland, in England? Because that's what's happening now. You're seeing a very small group decide the sexual template and the sexual identity of boys.
You have just come here from speaking with ministers and other people, and they are very shocked of what you have to say. Is there a method of yours to shock people?
I don't think it's my method. I think the image is shock, because again, a lot of people, they think they know what pornography is. And I don't even use many images. What I do is I tell them, I'm just going to walk you through the porn industry. I'm going to show you what a 12-year-old boy will come up with if he puts porn into Google. And I just show them. For example, the standard acts in pornography today, standard that you will always see, is gagging women with a penis to the point that she is really gagging, can't breathe, and in some point she even vomits, and they leave that in the film. Very, very brutal, rough anal sex. To the point that women's bodies cannot tolerate this. The average woman in pornography today can only tolerate about 3 months. They say her body gives out after 3 months. That just gives you a sense of how cruel it is. The average porn movie is 1 woman, 3 men, orally, vaginally, anally, pounding away at her, calling her the most vile names, pulling her hair, spitting into her face. I mean, this is the sexuality that is now passing as sex education for most of the world's population.
You talk about how this is affecting pop culture as well, and how everyone is participating in that.
Yes. I think it's very important to realise that we live in a kind of pornified culture. So you've got the boys who go to the gonzo porn, and you've got the girls who consume pop culture images of Rihanna, Beyonce, Paris Hilton. I mean, just think how Paris Hilton got famous. She got famous for her sex tape being released, okay? Now, first of all, what's important about that is the sex tape was made by her then boyfriend, who was 11 years older than her and married at the time, and released into the porn market against her will. So Paris Hilton is a kind of joke everywhere. But you know what? It wasn't funny what happened to that young woman. And then she decided, OK, you're going to call me a slut? I'm going to be the best slut you've ever seen. And that's what you saw in a way.
So that's her marketing.
That's her brand,
yeah,
yes.
her brand.
But you know what's very interesting? When you look at studies of young girls who are branded sluts, they don't make millions like Paris Hilton. They end up with high anxiety, depression, increased alcohol and drug abuse. In fact, being branded as a slut in high school or elementary school is a lot like a public rape of your identity. And these girls have post-traumatic stress disorder very similar to rape victims. So why Paris Hilton, who's a multi-millionaire, can walk around with the brand slut on her with pride, it doesn't work for most women or girls.
The Minister of Welfare in Iceland, Guðbjartur Hannesson, thinks it's not right to fight this with legislation, that we need to, well, question our own decency and, well, rely on a change of thought. But is it possible to step on the brakes in that way?
Well, I would say you absolutely need to change the way people think about it. But I would argue that this has gotten so big and so enormous, and we're at such a crisis level, that you need a kind of public health approach. So one would be certainly education and changing the way people think, but I would absolutely argue for legislation as well. I mean, you know, if you want to stop this, then you have to figure out a way for Icelandic men not to have access to hardcore pornography. If you really want women and girls to have gender equality in Iceland, then you cannot be basically feeding your boys and men a steady diet of pornography. The two don't go together. So I would agree, yes, you need to change thought, but you need to think about legislative activity as well.
You've also written about how this affects, well, the human trafficking.
Yes. Well, what happens is, you know, let me begin with saying this. I am the mother of a son. I do not believe that my son or anyone else's son is born a John. OK? So if we do not believe that men are born Johns, then we have to ask what is in the culture that socialises them to want sex with trafficked or prostituted women. And I would argue that one of the key socialising agents for our boys is pornography. If you think men are born Johns and rapists and batterers, and I think that's a very depressing attitude. And I, for one, as a mother of a son, refuse to sign into that. And as a feminist, I refuse to sign into that. Because what I say is that feminists are men's best friends. We are the ones who believe in men's humanity. So what we argue is that we need to stop these industries shaping them and turning them into Johns and abusers.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
Gail Dines heldur sem fyrr segir fyrirlestur í Háskóla Íslands á morgun klukkan 1.